Welcome back to this episode of the Deep Penetration Podcast. My name is Danny, just in case you don't know who I am, and I am a love and self-esteem coach that works with the LGBTQ plus community. I work a lot with gay and bisexual men when it comes to matters of self-esteem, self-acceptance, self-love, and really learning how to cultivate and navigate healthy, long-term sustainable relationships. If this is your first time joining the podcast, wherever you are joining from, whatever platform you are on, please make sure you are subscribing. It really helps with us being able to continue to have these very open and honest conversations, right? A big part of this podcast is about unpacking stereotypes and misconceptions about the queer community, and honestly, misconceptions that we have within the community ourselves. So, all that to say, welcome. And the topic that we are talking about today is the number one reason queer relationships fail, and that is because of fear. Fear is a powerful emotion that can significantly impact our lives, and it's often overlooked when considering the challenges faced by queer men in relationships. And in the context of gay and bisexual relationships, right? Fear plays a pivotal role, in my opinion, often acting as the primary obstacle to long lasting and fulfilling partnerships. And I know that a lot of you think that this may seem like a very obvious answer, but have you ever really stopped and asked yourself why? Why does fear play such a major role in so many failed relationships within the queer community? You probably haven't. And if you have, it probably stopped at because I don't want to get hurt. And hey, look, if you recognize that as the root of your fear, I commend you. You know, you've taken time to actually understand why you continue to have so many failed relationships or dating experiences that are not the greatest, that have resulted in you having a level of frustration around around dating, right? But now my question for you is this. Why are you afraid of getting hurt? You know, the feeling of hurt is subjective for every single person. The way in which you process pain and hurt and anguish and sadness is going to be very different from how I process it, right? And what does this mean? Basically, your fear is linked to a subjective spectrum of pain, and at some point, you experienced the far end of the spectrum, right? And that experience resulted in you creating defense mechanisms, building emotional walls, developing unhealthy attachment styles, and navigating the world with caution. And in no way do I blame you for this, right? It makes sense. As queer individuals, the threat of emotional, mental, and physical harm is very real, especially in the United States. And that's not accounting for places like Guyana or Sudan, Iran, Indonesia, United Arab Emirates, and many other countries where it's actually illegal to be gay. But here's the thing. Even in the United States and countries where it is legal to be openly queer and our rights are protected. Now, let me be specific, certain states within the United States, right? Not every single state. And it's not necessarily that it's illegal. It's just there's legislation that blocks our ability to freely be open and out and feel comfortable and all of those things. But again, that's completely dependent on your experience as a queer individual, because your rights as a trans person may be very different than my rights as a gay or a bisexual person. But at the end of the day, let's just say that in the areas or the places where it is more acceptable, we still struggle with relationships. So that got me thinking about fear itself. And over my years, as a coach working with people, I have come to believe that there are 6 primary fears that play a role. The first one is the fear of acceptance, right? So, one of the foundational fears that you might experience in relationships is the fear of being accepted, right? And this fear often stems from societal pressures, from cultural norms, and just personal insecurities that you've developed due to your subjective life experience. And many of you are hesitant to reveal your true sexual orientation or engage in an open and authentic conversation about your identity due to the fear of judgment or rejection. And this fear um, stifles the ability to develop trust and vulnerability, right? Inhibiting your ability to grow a strong foundation and a long lasting relationship. The second thing here is your fear of vulnerability. So, vulnerability is a key component of intimate relationships, but many of you struggle with the fear of being open and honest and authentic, and it's, again, completely understandable because it's dependent on your past experiences. So, traumas, rejections that you've experienced, internalized homophobia, the list goes on. And there is a fear of opening up emotionally and sharing deeper aspects of yourself, which can hinder the building of a genuine connection. Without the ability of being vulnerable, relationships will lack emotional depth, which prevent you and your partner from truly understanding one another and being able to support one another. The third thing here is the fear of intimacy, right? So, intimacy includes emotional, physical, and sexual closeness, but there's this fear that lacks in the shadows, right? That can sabotage your relationship, and the fear of intimacy can stem from a variety of different sources, right? So, internalized shame, previous relationship traumas, or fear of being hurt. And this fear may manifest as a reluctance to engage in physical affection, avoiding emotional intimacy, or the difficulty in developing strong emotional bonds. I have also seen it have the reverse effect where sex is used as a shield. Removing the emotional element and just enjoying the physical aspect of sex desensitizes you over a period of time. Overcoming this fear is crucial for you to be able to cultivate a deep connection and to be able to have a long lasting, sustainable, and healthy relationship. The fourth thing here is fear of commitment, right? The fear of committing is a common challenge in so many relationships, regardless of sexual orientation. But particularly in the queer community, it's very prevalent. And I think a lot of that is due to unique societal and cultural factors. The fear of commitment amongst gay and bisexual men can arise from a history of discrimination and marginalization, and the fear of losing personal freedoms, or the concerns about societal expectations. And this fear often leads to a cycle of avoidance and preventing establishment of long-term relationships and a multitude of different things. And I have met many men over the years who wanted a long-term relationship, but struggled with the idea of how that would look externally to other people. The fifth thing here is the fear of rejection. So, rejection in general is a universal fear that impacts every single person, but it is especially potent in the queer community. And many of you have experienced rejection and discrimination in various aspects of your life. I know I have, right? And these past experiences can intensify the fear of rejection in relationships, which leads to self-sabotage and mistrust and the inability to fully invest emotionally. And as I've said, with all of these other fears, overcoming it is going to be really important to help to rebuild your self-esteem and work on self-acceptance and creating a supportive, nurturing environment where you can actually feel comfortable enough to open up. But that takes time, that takes patience, that takes an acknowledgement of those fears being present, and then choosing to act on it and make changes that would benefit you and your relationship or any future relationships that you may have. The sixth thing here is the fear of incompatibility, right? So incompatibility, well, this basically arises. Well, this happens when you struggle to find partners who share similar values or interests or life goals, and because technically there is a smaller dating pool, some of you guys may fear that you won't find somebody who truly understands and supports you for who you are. And this fear can lead to settling for unsatisfying relationships or a reluctance to enter into a relationship altogether, right? So this hinders the potential for any kind of long-term happiness. But usually what I ask people in this type of situation is, are you afraid that the person you are dating is incompatible for you because they won't understand you, or is it because you have difficulty understanding yourself? Oftentimes I find that people don't really know themselves as much as they think they do. And how in the hell do you expect your partner to know who you are if you don't even know who you are, right? If you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, then RuPaul has the same catchphrase every single episode, which is, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else if you don't even love yourself? And that is important to keep in mind and to really take that in. It's super important. It's at the foundation of any relationship. Fear, which again is a universal experience, emotion, feeling. If we really break down what fear is intended to do, it's intended to help us to survive, to live, right? It's a part of a fight or flight response. So when you are growing up queer and you recognize that you are different from other people, there is a fear that you will not be accepted as part of community or the community that you want to be accepted into. And if we look at it from an anthropological standpoint, community equates to survival. Being in a group of people increases your chances and your odds of survival. Now, I understand in regards to modern times, that's processed very differently. And I talk about this all the time, but shame also plays a key role in maintaining community and being part of community. So nowadays in modern society, shame has taken on a completely different meaning, right? And it's expressed completely different, and it's processed and experienced differently. But back in the day, shame resulted in you conforming to the group in order for you to survive. If you were different from the group, you tried to be similar to the group in order to survive. Because if you were ousted and you were left to defend yourself, the likelihood of you surviving and living was not very high. So there is this drive and this determination and this need to live and to survive and to conform and to be part of the group. So when we finally break free from that fear or from that survival mode and accept who we are and say, you know what, no more of this. I am gay, or I'm bi, or I'm lesbian, or I'm trans, or whatever it is that you identify as, we think that we've released all of those things, but it's still a part of us, right? Either on a subconscious or a conscious level. So bringing conscious thought to that and really unpacking it and understanding it and processing it is going to be very important in order for you to have a healthy, sustainable, and long-term relationship. Because if that fear is still looming somewhere under the surface, it is going to come out in different ways. It's going to come out passively in your relationships and how you interact with people, your interpersonal relationships. So really unpacking why those fears are there, which is why I wanted to provide you with the six types of fear that I have seen over my years working with the LGBTQ plus community, with queer men, gay, bisexual, and honestly, many different individuals throughout the years. So the number one killer of relationships in the queer community is fear. If you have fear, let's talk about it. Let's unpack it. Let's try to work through it so you can overcome that hump, that barrier, so you can finally experience what a healthy relationship is like. And if you have overcome that fear and you have managed to take control or regain control of your dating life and you are happy and content and fulfilled, let me know. Tell me what your experience is, right? I love to have these open conversations and hear your side of things and your experience. Maybe your experience is wholly different from what I am talking about, and that is totally okay, right? That's what makes the world go round. That's what helps people to open up their perspectives and their perceptions about things. Challenging one another with our thoughts and the things that we believe and our ideologies is what helps us to connect to one another. So if your experience is different, great, share it. If your experience is the same, great, share it either way. Please make sure you are answering the poll at the end of the podcast. I always like to add a poll just so we can engage with one another. Let me know what you thought about the episode. And again, if you need support, if you need help, I will provide you with my information so that you can reach out to me directly. I have multiple different forms of being able to connect, which I have my YouTube channel, my TikTok, my Instagram, the website, this podcast. So you should be able to find me, but I will try to make it as easy for you as possible. And I will provide a link to my Linktree in the bio of this podcast. Again, please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you can be informed every time a new episode comes out. Thank you for sitting down and spending time with me and, having this chat. I appreciate it. I hope you guys appreciated it as well. And I will see you in the next episode.